What's going on, guys? Zach from Imperium Racing here, and I'm going to show you today how to replace spark plugs on this 2007 Honda Civic. So I've probably touched on spark plugs in other videos, done them as maintenance on the Integra and whatnot, but this video will be covering only spark plug replacement for those people just looking to do only that to their car and looking for a video for it. So before we get started, you don't need to warm up the car like you do for oil or anything like that. In fact, the warmer the car is, the hotter the spark plugs are going to be, and it's going to be a little more annoying to replace them. You can still do it with the car warm, however it's not necessary. Today I let the car warm up for about a minute and I drove it into the garage. They probably won't be cold, but they're definitely not going to be hot either. Step 1, open the hood. Tech tip. If you don't know this about cars, a lot of cars have two positions for their hood. Not all of them, so don't open your hood too far and bend the shit out of it. But a lot of them do, so just look for it. Alright, so some cars, when you open them, the hood will have struts on them, and so you just open it and it stays there by itself. If you have one of those hoods, good job. If you have one of those hoods and it's a Mercedes, or maybe some other European car, it might have a button where you can press it and lift the hood up further. Good job. Then you're at position 2. And that's what we're talking about here, where you can get into more room. But if you don't have struts that hold your hood open, then you have a hood prop like this, usually laying down here somewhere. This one clicks in here. So when you open the hood, pop it out of here, turn it over and hook it in the hood. Now this is the normal hole that most people know about. Now, this is the second hole that most people don't know about. It's the same hole, it's just down here. And that opens the hood much, much further. So that's a quick tech tip to give you some more room when you're working in the engine bay. It allows you to not bump your head on it, to give yourself more room to work under the hood. As far as safety equipment goes for replacing spark plugs, you don't really need anything, but I am a baby, so I'm gonna put my gloves on because I like my hands to stay nice. To all you glove-hating bros out there, congratulations. And of course, the other safety thing that I already mentioned, if your engine is fully warmed up, your spark plugs are going to be very, very freaking hot. So just don't burn yourself. Don't hold it for too long. Now, step 2, after you get the hood open, is gaining access to your spark plugs. So a lot of more modern cars, 10, 20 years old or less, especially when it comes to smaller engines like this 4-cylinder, will have the coil pack over the plug. If you have an older car or a V8 that's different or something like that, sometimes they just have spark plug wires going to the spark plug. I can show you on this engine actually. So this is an older engine. This engine is from a late 90s Acura Integra, and on this engine there's a distributor. This shoots off the spark through the spark plug wire and down here to each individual spark plug. So if you're replacing spark plugs on this engine, all you would do is take the 4 bolts off this cover, pull up the spark plug wire, and down in there is your spark plug. Very, very simple. Spark plug wire with the spark plug underneath it, and there's not really much in the way. However, if you have a newer vehicle or any vehicle with a coilover plug, then the entire ignition coil will be on top of the spark plug. Now, what I recommend for most vehicles is not unplugging the coil. The reason I say that is because most cars, this one included, you can simply undo the bolts that hold the coil down and you can just move it out of the way. What happens when you start undoing coils is a lot of this plastic is 20 years old, 10 years old, and it's heated up and cooled down constantly by the engine, and it's very fragile. So what happens is you can break one of these, you can break a clip, you can make that connection bad if you break the clip. There's a lot that can go wrong with simply unplugging an ignition coil, and you can possibly create an issue that wasn't there already, especially with an older car. There's only one 10mm bolt on each of these coils. I will take that off and just simply lay the ignition coils out of the way. Another thing to look out for, if you're not disconnecting them, when you lay them out of the way, don't touch anything hot. If the wires are on this side and you fold them over here and you set it on the exhaust, you might melt your ignition coil. And those can be pretty pricey. Don't unplug them, just unbolt them, move them out of the way, and don't set them on anything hot. Alrighty, we are doing spark plugs on the Civic. There's my plugs. I was slightly disappointed that they came just loose in a box like this. And at least they got the cardboard here, but like, seriously guys, I've never seen spark plugs not individually boxed. Even at the dealer where they probably buy, you know, a couple hundred at a time, they still don't come like this. You better hope none of these are broken, boy. And by that I mean, I hope none of them are broken. Love working on freaking Honda products. So easy. Let's get to it. Alright, so not too many tools needed for this job. In fact, for the Civic, you really only need a couple things. You need a 10mm socket, hopefully you can find yours, and a ratchet for that, obviously. This is to remove the coil packs. I'm just using my gun, but this is 3/8 drive. Same thing as using a 3/8 ratchet. You just need a 10mm socket and something to turn it with. The other thing you'll need is a spark plug socket. Grab your spark plug, find the spark plug socket that fits, and then we will need an extension to get down in there. I grabbed two, not totally sure which one I'll need. And a couple of tips on these. Can you use a regular socket to get a spark plug out? Absolutely you can, but it's gonna be super, super, super freaking annoying. Maybe just go get a Harbor Freight set or go to AutoZone and you can probably rent one for free or something. But the difference between a spark plug socket and regular socket is, one, this is a deep socket. Two, it has a piece of rubber inside to hold your spark plug. You pull your socket out and there's your spark plug. You don't have to try and reach in there and grab it because it will be a hassle on most cars. Second, when you're going in with the new spark plug, shove your spark plug in there and it'll stick. So that little rubber gasket is necessary. Can you ghetto make one of these with a regular socket and a rubber O-ring or something? Again, the answer is yes, but it's probably going to cause you a bunch of headache because that rubber O-ring isn't designed like the socket is, and it's going to get stuck on your spark plug. And one, you won't notice, and you'll put your coil pack back on, and then you'll have ignition issues. Or two, you will notice, and it'll be a hassle to get back off, or you'll have to take the plug back out. Get yourself a spark plug socket. It's going to save you a huge headache. Second thing, locking extension. A lot of times spark plugs, you'll screw the new one in, and because it's held on there with a little rubber, you'll go to pull your socket back out and your socket will just come straight off your extension. That's also super annoying. This is a locking extension and it actually works really well. Pretty good force that does not come off. So another super good thing. Spark plug socket, locking extension, it'll make your day so nice doing spark plugs. It'll make your life so easy. You're gonna need to cover torque wrench until we're going back in, but you will need a torque wrench. So 10mm socket to get the nuts off the coil packs, spark plug socket to get the spark plug in and out, locking extension preferably so you don't lose your spark plug socket, and torque wrench for going back together, and a ratchet or whatever to turn all of those tools. If you do a fair amount of DIY stuff, I would recommend getting some cheaper electric tools because I love them. And if you're working in a shop or any dealer level, definitely just get electric tools and spend the money on nice ones because they will last you. Small magnetic tray, keep your stuff safe, keep it in one place. Oh, I might have lied. These might have to come off. Oh, did I lie? Oh, goodness. Ha! I was trying to pull these coils off and the plastic piece didn't give me much room to actually get the coil all the way out. And I don't want to bend these wires or risk breaking them. And I told you I don't want to undo the connectors. Two little plastic pull tabs and this cover comes off. So the tabs look like you just have to rotate them about 90 degrees and pull them out. And once you get that piece off, two more tins and a clip. Take the tins off, slide this over. Now we got all sorts of room to play with. All of these will come out. Super easy. Let's give these a quick little inspection, make sure there's nothing glaringly wrong with them. You know, missing the little spring inside or, cool. So now we got access to the spark plug tubes and we're gonna bust these spark plugs out. So you grab your air gun and just blow each hole real quick. And what that does is it gets all of the dust and dirt and grime out because sometimes stuff will slide down in there. It kind of blows everything out before you take the spark plug out because obviously when you take the spark plug out, it's just open to the engine, right? It takes about 5 seconds. If you have air at your house or your shop, just bust each one real quick. Be a little bit accurate because if you just spray right next to this, you're just gonna blow a bunch of dirt around and probably get more dirt in there. So make sure you're in the hole with your air gun. So what I personally like to do is do one plug at a time. So you take the plug out and then you put the new plug in, take the plug out, new plug in. Makes it easy to keep track, and even if you're doing a V8 or a V6 or something, do one side at a time. That way if you get distracted or you have to do something and come back to the job, you know where you're at because you look and you say, all right, I have 2 used spark plugs out and 2 new ones left, meaning I did these first 2, now I need to take the third one out. It's just to help you out, time saver, and then I'll torque them all at the end. And yes, I do torque spark plugs. If you over tighten a spark plug, you can break it. And a broken spark plug is not a fun thing to have to remove. Looks like the 6-inch extension is plenty. Get the socket on there, make sure the socket's on by hand, put your tool on there, smack it to break it loose, and then get it out. This plug looks fine, looks a little old, but it looks okay. And you can tell a lot of them start to get this heat, this coloring down at the bottom of the white. So something that I do, not everyone does this, but it's what I do. Going back in with any spark plug, I go by hand. First of all, stick it in there, turn it left until you feel it seat. Any important threads, left first. All it takes is less than a turn usually, and you'll feel it drop into place, and then you start tightening. And the thing that I do slightly differently than other people is going back in, I only use my hand and a torque wrench. So that's tight. You can torque right now or at the end. I didn't get my torque wrench out yet, so I'm just gonna keep going. But that is hand tight, and that's how I like to do it. Not super necessary to look into them, but if you decide to take a peek in there, just make sure they all look pretty much the same. Now we're gonna torque them down. 25 Newton meters for this bad boy, and that should be the same for any similar Honda Civic of this generation, as long as it's on SI. Couple things to note when you're torquing these. Yeah, I gave it 2 or 3 green lights on each one. It's totally fine. These do have a crush washer at the bottom. If you can see that washer on the brand new ones, that is a crush washer. Meaning, when you start to get snug, you'll get to like 20 Newton meters, and it'll just keep turning, and you'll think, is this stripped? Am I fucked? No, you're not. You just need to crush that washer. And once you get a couple turns at 20, it'll start to actually tighten down, which is another reason why torque spec is important, because if you just go and you're like, hey, that's kind of snug, well, you probably didn't crush that washer, and it's not actually tight. A tip when you're using extensions and torquing something important is anytime you turn this, especially with a wobble extension, it's gonna give it a weird direction of torque. So when you're doing a spark plug, if I just tighten this, the whole wrench is gonna go sideways, you know? I have this much movement. You wanna brace this with your hand and try and keep your extension centered in the hole, straight up and down, parallel to the spark plug, right? So I'm bracing with my hand like this as I tighten. That's why I'm using 2 hands, in case you're wondering. Because if you go off center, then you can cause issues and break stuff. Good habit to get into so you don't mess anything up. So we are done. All 4 of these are torqued. Coil packs back in, tighten them down, and then put this cover back on. Clip that back in, and then we got a 10 here and a 10 here. You can see these holes are open this way, so we got to go in and then turn the tab. These just kind of hook on the cover. We'll do the front end first. Hook it on. Push that in. Turn these. Beautiful. Start her up to make sure she works, but we should be good to go. Nice. I know I talk too much in every single video, so if you watch that entire thing, thank you very much. I hope it helped you out if you are looking to do your own spark plugs. Alright guys, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. We have a bunch of other DIY videos on our channel, as well as racing videos, entertainment videos, all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned for those. Lots of videos coming out. We got SEMA videos out. We got more coming out. So again, like, subscribe, follow. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for watching. And as always, peace. Before you put your new plugs in, take a quick look at them. Make sure that little white piece there is not loose. Shake it around, poke on it. And then just kind of visually check the gap and make sure all of your new spark plugs look the same and none of them are bent or anything. Gapping spark plugs is pretty much a thing of the past. They usually come gapped correctly. As long as you ordered the correct spark plug, it should be fine. Go with OEM replacement. As far as torque wrenches go, if you're not using it constantly every day, you don't need an expensive one. If you're the occasional DIYer at home, just get the Harbor Freight set. They're fine, they'll be close enough. If you are in a shop or a dealer or using it on a daily basis, I would recommend a nicer one.